Hello and welcome to the I Am Woman project, where every week we have deep, thought-provoking and interesting conversations with thought leaders, change instigators, rule breakers and creative minds who think differently, sparking creativity and inspiration. Our special guests on our show cover a variety of topics just for you, and they share their personal stories to inspire, motivate and empower you, our listener. The I Am Woman podcast is produced for your enjoyment, and show notes are found at www.catherineplano.com. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favourite RSS feed or iTunes. All links are in the show notes. Now let's get into the show. Today we have Kate Christie, the founder and director of Time Stylers. Kate is a time management expert, an entrepreneur, international speaker and best-selling author of Me Time, the professional woman's guide to finding 30 guilt-free hours a month. Kate steps readers through a proven 5-step process to find and harness hours of lost time each month. Time Stylers specialises in helping successful, time-poor female professionals and entrepreneurs manage their time smarter. Time Stylers has a reputation for helping out clients find and harness 30 hours of lost time a month. Kate also consults to big and small business, government departments and executives on smart time management and how to maximise productivity at home and at work, and how to retain top talent via smart time management strategies. Kate has appeared on Australia and New Zealand television, radio and in print as a leading commentator on managing work-life integration to ensure you can have success across your career, family, community and life. So sit back, chill out, take out some time to listen to this amazing woman, Kate Christie. So welcome to the show, Kate Christie. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's been amazing. As I was saying, I'm so glad to finally get you on the show. It's been such a long time. And before we started with the show, we had a bit of a chat about what kind of conversation we are going to have. And what you brought up was, I think, very important about how do we manage time? How do we have enough time? And all about time and women in general. So maybe for our listeners, would you like to tell us a little bit about Kate Christie?
Sure. So I am a mum. I'm a businesswoman, an entrepreneur. I am a daughter, a sister, an auntie, all those wonderful, wonderful things. My business focus is very much on working with really driven, savvy, intelligent people who are already incredibly awesome, but who are not managing their time as well as they could to take their success to the next level. And so my job is to motivate, inspire, coach them around the use of their time so that they are unstoppable.
Wow, love it. So Kate, your company is Time Stylers, and I'm curious as to how did this all start for you?
Well, it started really when I was in corporate. I was on the sort of the career trajectory. I was climbing that ladder. Nothing was going to stop me. I was pretty used to getting what I wanted just with sheer hard work and a modicum of talent. And then within a short space of time, I had 3 babies in 3.5 years. And my ability to control everything basically just went out the window. So what I found once I'd had my kids and trying to work in corporate was that there were just so few resources available to support busy people to manage their lives domestically whilst they were still trying to grow their career. So I left corporate and started my first business, which is still going. It's a national portal called Babysitters and More. And essentially that business connects really busy people with local domestic help so that they can, I guess, live the life they want and free up some of their time. From there, after a couple of years, what really became apparent to me was that it wasn't just about helping people outsource at home, that there were a whole heap of other pillars that people needed to put in play to help them manage their time better. So I spent a lot of time thinking that through and talking with people, and I found that people were coming to me for advice on those issues, and my responses were always the same, and they then felt that that was offering real benefit to them. And so I decided to write my first book, which was to answer those questions that I was getting asked all the time, and it really just took off from there.
Well, that's amazing. I'm curious to find out too, because we were saying that before I had a coaching session. We're talking about time in itself. And how is it that, I mean, for me, I'm a big planner. That's how I work well with my time and how I manage to do as many things as I do because I plan. But then, you know, how do people, for those that maybe are not as, good at planning, for example, what would be some things that you would share with them, or what kind of advice for somebody that's like, I'm working, like you said, I've got children, I don't have enough time for myself. So what would you say to them?
Look, I think that there's some very sort of simple tips that anyone could implement immediately to start seeing time come back into their day. So there's some quick wins and low-hanging fruit. But what I would say to them is that if you really want to get genuine time back, if you really want to get back your 30 hours a month, then you need to invest your time to find your lost time. You can instill or put in place some quick wins, but really you need to look at it holistically and work through all of the steps. I have a 5-step program that I recommend. You're only ever going to harness your maximum number of lost hours if you dedicate time to finding them. So it's not just about the quick wins.
Well, that's interesting. I'd like to find out a little bit more about that. So invest time to find the lost time. So how do you find lost time?
So I look, in terms of the 5 steps I recommend that you take, it's an acronym, so it's SMART. And step number 1 is self-aware, and that's where you take the time to think about what your key time management challenges are. What are the things that really, trip you up and annoy you day after day? And it could be, email overwhelm. It could be that you're constantly being interrupted. It could be that you're just juggling too much, those sorts of issues. And at the same time, you look at, what's most important to you. What are your core values? Where do you want to be spending your time? And we don't often take the time to self-reflect like that. And, ironically, because we're too busy, but it's so important to, I guess, have a benchmark or have something to work from so that when you do start to get your time back, you can look back and see the gains you've made. Step number 2 is M, and that's MAP. And that's basically where you undertake a time audit, so a personal time audit, where you record everything that you're doing over the course of a couple of days, really in a lot of detail, down to sort of every interruption that comes, and you just keep a timesheet next to you, because if you don't know where you're spending your time, or if you don't know all of those little thieves of your time, then you can't know what you need to change in order to get your time back. So mapping your time is absolutely critical. The 3rd step is A, and that's analyze. And that's where you go through your time maps and you break your activities up into your musts, your wants, your delegates, and your rejects. So your musts are the things that you have to do, that only you can do. Your wants are the things that really float your boat, the things you'd really love to be spending more time on, but are often the things that come last. And that might be, meditating or going for a jog or knitting a jumper or whatever it is that you would love to be spending your time on. Your delegates and your rejects are where you're going to get back all of your lost time. So delegates fall into two camps. There's insourcing and there's outsourcing. So from a home-based perspective, for those of your followers and listeners who are, working but also juggling a family, we're all sort of very familiar with the concept of outsourcing at home, so where you pay someone, an expert, to do a job for you that you don't want to do or that you don't have time to do, or that they can do more efficiently, do a better job and at a cheaper rate than you. So such as cleaning, or you might get a gardener or someone to, come and, wash the windows. Insourcing is the direct opposite of that. That's basically where you identify everything that you're doing for the people you live with, often your children, your partner, that they can start doing for themselves, that you don't have to pay them to do. And that's often a big hurdle for successful women, because they often overcompensate when they're at home. They'll tend to do more because they may feel guilty that they're, the hours they're working or whatever the case may be. So they're quite happy to sort of pick up the towels and hang them up and tidy up the bedrooms and put away all the crap that's been left lying around. I'm a big one for insourcing. Family is a team sport. Everyone needs to contribute. And it's you would be amazed with how many hours you find just by getting the people you live with to do their things for themselves. We're all familiar with the concept of outsourcing at the workplace, and then the final category is reject. And again, heaps and heaps of hours to be found there. And rejects are either things that you don't need to do at all because they're just a silly waste of your time, or things that you do need to do but that you could do more efficiently. And then the final two steps of the 5-step process are reframe and take control. And essentially that's where you identify everything you're going to reject and delegate. We set up an action plan for you and keep you honest to that program, so that you're changing your poor habits and instilling new habits. And the end result is that, you'll find that 30 hours of lost time a month.
Well, I love that, Kate, and I love the whole insourcing piece. I know that for myself, when I first started working from home, and there's a level of guilt if you ask your family to help you out because you're at home, they'll go out to work, or, some went to school. But it did make a big difference when I asked them to help out, for example, whether it was, emptying the dishwasher or even doing their own washing. It actually bought me back time. But it did take, I have to be honest, it did take a little while for me to get comfortable with that, because there was this level of guilt because I was running a business from home.
Absolutely. And, I think just because you're working from home, or even if you're, working out of the home, the bottom line is that, you're not a slave. You're a partner, you're a mum, and the people you live with are quite capable of doing these things for themselves. And also, you've got to think of it in terms of the sorts of individuals you're wanting to raise. My sons are going to grow up to want to marry your daughters. So, we need to make sure that they all know how to use a dishwasher, and they all know how to do their washing and hang it up on the clothesline. And, I've been instilling those sort of jobs and values in my kids since they were really little. And, it's not about ensuring that they do a perfect job. You ask your 6 or 7-year-old to vacuum, it's not going to be perfect, but it's not the result. It's the habit that you're creating, so that when they're 16 or 17, then the vacuuming is amazing.
Yeah, it's so true. Absolutely. And you're empowering them because you're allowing them, you're trusting them for them to do whatever that may be, whether it's vacuuming or emptying the dishwasher. And like you said, it's not about whether they do a great job. It's about instilling those values and teaching them for themselves. So when they leave, and when they leave home, for example, they have all of that under the belt kind of thing. It's not like they're going to go out there, oh, I don't know how to make my bed, or I don't know they know how to do it because they started at a very young age.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. We're creating, individuals who are independent, and it's really important then to be consistent around that, and just to make sure that family is a team sport. It's not a hotel, and everyone is responsible for chipping in.
So true. Very true. So, Kate, you were saying before you love working with highly motivated and passionate people. So what drives you?
Look, I think what drives me is, I guess I'm very lucky because the people that I tend to work with are, by definition, really motivated, inspiring people anyway, because they're coming to me already sort of at the top of their game, but saying, I know I can be better. I just need to manage my time better because there's more I can do, or there's more I want to do, or there's more I want to be. So from that perspective, it's really, I guess, motivating and inspiring and empowering for me because I only get to work with really awesome people. And I love that. I never, ever have to work with someone where I'm dragging them across the finish line because they self-select. They only come to me when they know that they can be even better. And that is really, I guess I'm really, really very lucky that way. But that then motivates me. And I guess once we start seeing the person get results and they start to see that changes that they're implementing are making a big difference, then that's really what gets me out of bed is, knowing that I've helped someone become even better, have greater success, have greater happiness, have a better chance at integrating work and life. That's what motivates me.
No, I'm the same. I'm very much motivated by the outcomes of my customers. Absolutely. So in business, Kate, what's the greatest lesson that you've ever learned?
I think that the best lesson, and it's it's so interesting, isn't it? Because we're learning every day. Every single day, new things come up, or lessons surprise us. Well, they do me. I'll often think, oh God, why didn't I think of that before? But I think the one key lesson that has always stuck with me was given to me by a very senior manager that I was probably 2 or 3 rungs under when I was working in corporate, and he taught me the lesson around having the right data, and he had this phrase that data is king, and that whenever you're putting forward a submission or a proposal, or even in my writing now, it's stuck with me forever that everything I say and do, I can do it with real certainty because I've done all the research. I have the data to back it up. So it's some advice that's become a habit for me that, I don't say these sorts of things lightly because I know I've got the data to back it up.
Oh, I like that. And I think that's with anything that we do. Quite often, and especially it depends on what kind of writing you do and who for, quite often they do ask for facts and figures and data, which is really important because it makes it credible what you write about as well.
Absolutely. And if you're going to be positioned as an expert, if other people are looking to you to assist them with your area of expertise, I think it's absolutely incumbent upon us to be at the top of our game. And that means being across all the research, being across all the data. It's just critical.
Yeah, and talking about business too, and that brings me to the other point too, is I think that every business, we all have pain points. And when we're dealing with our business, what would be one of those pain points for you that you encounter every now and then or often?
Look, probably, and I absolutely have you to thank for this, by the way. When I was looking through your notes and the sorts of questions you were going to be asking me, and one of them was, what's a sort of a pain point, and it really caused me to focus and think it through. And what was really evident to me is this sort of I love my passion is for working with people, and the finances and so forth behind that is, I find it a bit boring, and I will often sort of say, well, that's a process-driven administrative sort of task, so I'll get to that later. And it's got to the point where it's become a pain point because it's interrupting or taking me away from what I'm most passionate about doing. So when I read your questions and I focused on that, I thought, no, absolutely, this is a pain point and I need to do something about it. So I immediately went out and got some referrals, spoke to some trusted colleagues, and I've now engaged a new bookkeeper. I've outsourced all of that. I've engaged and outsourced to a new accountant who's much more proactive and progressive as compared to what I've previously been doing. So it was such a great question because it prompted me to make an immediate change, and I feel like a real weight has lifted.
Oh, that's awesome. And, I think that sometimes we don't even think about our pain points because we're so busy, being busy, that we actually don't stop to reflect, like, what is my pain point right now? And we all have them. And I think that sometimes when we shine light on our pain points, it helps us, push us forward or maybe tweak things a little bit so that we don't fail, I guess,
Absolutely. And it's I guess that comes back to that point before about lessons in business, and that's obviously, that's a lesson for me, that I'm my role, that my business is built around focusing on other people's pain points, and helping them resolve those so that they have greater success. And yet I hadn't turned my mind more recently to what my own pain points were. And, so that was a really good reminder. It's a lesson, you've got to pick these things up every day and say, okay, that's something that I need to remember.
Love it. Absolutely. And thank you so much for being honest and sharing it with us. It just makes us all human, doesn't it? But I think when we talk about it, I think other people will listen to the show and go, oh, I did the same thing, and we'll be able to connect with you and I.
Absolutely. And look, I think that's why I love, I guess, stimulating business type conversations, particularly when you're a solopreneur and you're growing your business on your own. It's so important to have a level of connectedness with other inspiring, amazing individuals who are also doing the same thing, because those conversations, every time I meet or talk with people, I come away with a bullet, list of 10 to 15 items where I think they're changes I need to make or they're things I've learned, and so important to reflect on these conversations. And, you really want to be saying, okay, I want to take at least 2 or 3 things away from each conversation that I have.
I'm the same, and I always say, whether I'm facilitating a class or I'm doing a coaching session, I walk in with the intention that I'm going to learn something, and I call that a learning mindset. And every time I learn something from, whether they're a coachee or someone sitting in a class, I'm always learning off them. And I think that's really important to have that learning mindset, because otherwise, if you don't and you think yourself as an expert, then you'll remain closed and think you know it all and not be open to new information.
I completely agree. And I think that we're always learning. No one knows everything. And you have to be open to accepting advice, but you also have to be open to asking for advice and feedback. The greatest value that anyone can give you as an individual or a business owner is when they take the time to give you feedback. And even if that feedback hurts in the short term or you find confronting, I guess that's a second key lesson that I learned from this particular mentor who told me, data is king. His other key learning that he gave me was always thank people for their feedback, because it's always given generously, because the person's taken the time. They don't have to tell you how they feel you could improve. And even if it hurts initially, there's always going to be something in it. And it may be as little as, if that's the perception that someone has of me, and I disagree, but what is it that I'm doing that has led them to have that perception? So, it's always thank people for their feedback.
No, I agree. And I think that's the only way we can find out, we all have unconscious behaviors and they're our blind spots. And the only way to shine light on those unconscious behaviors is to receive feedback. And I'm constantly asking for feedback and even if I don't agree with it, I know that I probably don't agree with it because I actually don't see that in myself. Of course I can't, because I'm not the observer of everything that I do, for example. But if I was, and I have time to reflect on the information I receive, I can see how they can see that in me.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I'm honest to myself.
Yeah, and it's around that honesty. It's you don't have to take on the feedback immediately. It's important just to sit and dwell on it for a little while, but it's important to thank people for it, and I guess to take what you can from it.
Absolutely. So, Kate, what do you think is the number one reason most individuals fail to succeed in business?
Do you think in terms of do you mean in terms of the sort of the failure of new businesses?
Yeah, I think so. Like, quite often you hear, and we speak to a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, and and there's this belief that if you get past 12 months, you're lucky. If you get past 2 years, you're getting better. 3 years, well, you're on a roll. And quite often you hear that a lot of businesses don't even last 12 months. And whether it's they're doing this something similar to what your topic is, what do you think is the number one reason most people don't succeed?
Look, I think in terms of businesses that I've seen not succeed, I would say in terms of, instead of a generic sort of statement, but where I've actually, known the people or been aware of their circumstances, I would say that it's that people give up too early.
Okay.
I'm not able to obviously comment on whether they gave up because they ran out of money or whether they ran out of motivation or whether there were other hurdles. But the businesses that I've seen succeed have always had that period of time where they have that real self-doubt and they have that moment of truth where, God, shall I just give this up and go back to corporate where I'm guaranteed of a paycheck every fortnight and paid holiday leave? I don't know anyone in business now who is at a level of success where they haven't had those moments of crisis where they could have given up. And the ones that kind of powered on have ended up having real success. And so I think it's perhaps, that people may give up a little too early.
Look, I can relate to that. And I think we all come to, at a point in time at crossroads, and so then what do we do with that? So how did you overcome your crossroad or your roadblock?
I think that I always had a really strong inner belief that I would be able to make my business successful, that even in those moments of real doubt, and, you have them. And I had many, many conversations with my partner where he was, urging me to go back to corporate. You were successful there. You were earning really good money. This is not working. And many of those conversations and real heartache around it. And I just kept coming back to, but I know this is going to work. And I had, whether it was foolhardy or naive or, risky. I don't know, but I had a really strong inner belief that I was going to be able to make it work.
So what was that turning point for you? Because I mean, I had the same thing. I got to that crossroad where I was not sure if this is where I wanted to be. Was I going to be successful? And, I had this inner drive that I knew that if I just push through, I would get there. So what was that turning point for you, that when you did get through or over whatever that roadblock was, what was it for you?
The defining moment?
Yes, the defining moment. Perfect.
Oh, gee. I don't know. I think it still happens every day. I can't say that there was one particular thing. I guess if I had to pick one thing, I think it would be when I do a lot of public speaking and a lot of speaking engagements, and initially it was probably when people were coming to me and saying, oh, wow, that was so great. Thank you. I've taken this, and this, and I'm so glad I came. And I guess when you get that positive affirmation from people, I guess that was, it not only gave you the drive to continue, but it was sort of quite affirming, self-affirming. Yes, I am in the right place. This is where I am supposed to be.
That's awesome.
What was it for you?
I remember a story about, and it was a story that I read, and then a story that I'd spoken to with one of my mentors about. It's a Think Rich, Grow Rich, by Napoleon Hill, and there was a story about how this gentleman invested money in a gold mine, and he spent, I think, 12 months, digging it all up, and in the end he goes, oh, this piece of land is rubbish, and gave it up. And then somebody else bought the block of land off him, or this land off him, and basically found the gold. So really he was 3 feet away from gold. And so it was a conversation I had with my mentor, and it's the thing that I couldn't walk away knowing that I could be 3 feet away from gold.
Yeah.
So for me, I kept saying, well, you're 3 feet away from gold. And I think that just the fact that I was thinking that and saying that to myself, I pushed through. It just happened all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And it's really about a changing mindset, because if you start getting stuck in a problem and start doubting yourself, and if this is what, is this what I really want to do? What am I doing? That kind of stuff, then you get stuck. But if you look at it, this is an opportunity. What can I do, or what can I say to myself, or how can I think to pull me away from this? And that's what I did, a lot of soul searching and self-searching, which I'm so grateful for.
Yeah. And I think, I think that comes back to my comment earlier around what's the number one reason that businesses fail, and it's that comment that they just give up too soon. And it's exactly the same as what you said. They give up when they're 3 feet from gold. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, true, very true. And I think that you've just got to back yourself all the way, 100% all the way.
That's it. I think, honestly, it's never going to be easy. I mean, if creating a business and becoming successful in it was easy, then everybody would be doing it. And so if you have an idea, you have a product or you have a service, and you know that it's going to add value, if you have the right niche, if you have an extraordinary passion for what you're delivering, then you will create success. But it's hard work. I mean, it's not easy. Every single day is hard work. And the days when the client kind of comes to you completely unsolicited, that's the sort of day where you just say, oh my God, this is brilliant. But, that's not happening every day. You know what I mean? And I think some people expect it will, but it won't. It's hard work.
Yeah, you've just got to put the time into it. Absolutely. So, Kate, we always ask our woman of inspiration to pick one word that best describes her personal brand. So what would be yours?
I would say inspiring. I love the energy that I have when I feel that I'm connecting with an individual, with a group, and I have inspired them to make the changes they need to make that will take their success to the next level. And that would be, inspiring is what I would say is the one thing.
I have to agree with that. I can see you definitely very inspiring. The other thing we do as we wrap up the show, Kate, is we ask our Women of Inspiration to leave 3 golden nuggets for our listeners. So what would be those 3 shiny golden nuggets that you would like to leave for our listeners?
Okay, so the first one would be that you need to invest your time to find your lost time. No one's going to wave a magic wand and give you your time back. You need to find the time to learn how to do it. The second one I would say, and this is just a quick tip, is stop multitasking. When we multitask, our productivity goes down by 40% because our brains are not designed to do more than one thing at a time. So, focus on single tasking. The third thing, which is probably a deviation from what I was going to say, but the third thing is just to set yourself really strong career, personal and family goals, and do that tomorrow if you haven't already done it, and then revisit it every month. Have it visual, have it near you so that you can see how you're tracking, and make sure that you record each and every single win that happens to you, because there's nothing more self-affirming, there's nothing that's going to get you through a bad day than looking up and seeing all those wins.
Oh, I just love that. And I really love you need to invest time to find your lost time. That's something I'm going to do myself. I love that. It's I've not heard of that before.
I'm glad that you loved it.
Yeah. So, Kate, how do our listeners find you?
They can find me on my website, timestylers.com.au. I'm on Facebook under Kate Christie, and they can email me at kate@timestylers.com.
Thank you so much, Kate, for your insight, your wisdom. It's been awesome. I've got a lot out of today's, and I'm sure our listener will also get a lot out of this. 2 women having a conversation. Thank you so much once again for your time. Yes, it has been.
I've enjoyed it. The time's flown.
I know. We could go on all day, and I'm just so happy we finally got you on the show. So thank you so much for making the time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of another episode. I hope you enjoyed the show, as it is my mission to reach out and inspire as many individuals like you. And one of the best ways to help us achieve this goal is by giving us a good review on iTunes. It's easy and it only takes about 10 seconds. If you have any questions or special guests that you would like to hear from, please send us an email to support@catherineplano.com.au and we will get right back to you. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter or Facebook @Catherine Plano. That's it for now. Thanks for listening. Until next week, please take care.